Well, a wounded bear is the most dangerous animal in the forest because he's mad now because you shot him. So it's your responsibility to follow that trail and find that bear and kill it. So anyway, he was going along the trail looking for the bear, and he comes up to this big tree, and he was like,
Crying?
"Whoa, I've never seen a tree that big." So he goes back down to the camp in Murphy's. It's about, I don't know, 12 miles from here. And he's telling everybody in the bar about this big tree that he saw. And they were all going like, "Oh yeah, right." You know? And he couldn't get anybody to believe him. Nobody would come out and look at the tree. Finally, one day, he convinced this guy to come out. And the guy looked, he goes, "Oh my God, that is the biggest tree I've ever seen in my life." So that's how they discovered the tree. And then they thought, well, we're going to make some money. We'll cut the tree down. We'll make all kinds of things out of it. Well, it didn't really work out that way. You know, they took the bark off. They took some of the bark off, and they went down to Stockton or San Francisco, and they put it back together, and they charged people 5-10 cents to see the world's largest tree. Until some joker like me said, "Oh man, that ain't a real tree. You just got a bunch of bark and you put it together and try to convince us that was a tree." So they said, "Well, okay, we'll cut the tree down, we'll cut a slice of it, and we'll bring it down and put the bark back on. You'll see it was a real tree." That's what they did. Only the problem was they didn't have the right tools to knock down a tree this big. They never saw a tree this big. They didn't have axes big enough. They didn't have saws big enough. What they had was this tool called, it's really just a drill. And what the water company would do, they would cut a straight cedar tree like this. They would cut it into lengths, and then they drill through the center of it. See how they're drilling through the center of the log? To make water pipes. We have no Home Depot. We have no Lowe's. They need water pipes because they need to move water from one place to the other for the gold mining. So that's what I'll show you. The part that fell off on the tree. See all the drill marks? You can see how they did.
Yes.
They drilled the tree down. They didn't cut it. 5 men worked 22 days drilling the tree, drilling. Finally, when they got through drilling, the tree was still standing. They're like, "What do we do now? We can't knock it over. I can't push it over. We can't pull it.
Yeah.
How are we going to get this tree to come down?" So they were up there by where the parking lot is now, and they were talking, "Well, what are we going to do?" Scratching their heads like, "Man, we don't know what to do." They had to wait for a big wind to come through the park and knock the tree over, which it did. And it knocked that. And so they started working on this piece on the other side. And then the other piece, the tall piece is laid up. You want to know how tall this tree was before they knocked it down? I could give you a number, but it doesn't really mean anything. But look, watch this. You see these two sugar pine trees here? This sugar pine tree and that sugar pine tree? If you take this sugar pine tree and stack it way up on top of that sugar pine tree, that's how tall this tree was. That's crazy, isn't it? Huh? It makes me dizzy just to look up that far. It was a big, tall tree.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in the way when it came down. It'd squish you like a bug.
Yeah. That's a nice story. Yeah, that's the real story.
That's the real one.
That's the story of the big stump. So now you guys are going to go find the father of the forest where you can walk through the tree. Okay. So you guys understood where the
Yes.
pamphlet is? Okay. Have fun.
Thank you.